Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. Today we're going to talk about a big event, and it's the number of clauses and transactions on VeChain. Really, the number of clauses and the number of Vtho burned. Um, this actually might be a little bit misleading because usually clauses and transactions are the same thing. In general, they're kind of like counted as the same thing. But as you can see, the number has actually skyrocketed in the last couple of days, and there's a lot of speculation on doing that. But most of all, we want to actually speculate. We want to actually look at the number of Vtho burned, and that has gone way, way up. If you look at the number of Vtho burned over the last few days, starting on April 24th, we see that like around 308,000.3k Vtho were burned due to usage on April 24th. But on April 26th, 30.7 million Vtho were burned. April 27th, 26.9 million, and April 28th, 27.5 million. So altogether, you have almost 90 million Vtho burned within 3 days. Now that's really good for VeChain investors because we know that every transaction, or really every clause, every transaction and clause actually needs Vtho to actually function. And it looks like the number of Vtho actually burned is much more correlated with clauses than transactions. I've heard other people explain to me before that clauses basically are transactions, and the graph is just a little bit off here in the last few days. If this is the case, then the number of clauses on VeChain has surpassed the number of transactions on Bitcoin blockchain, at least for the period of April 27th. So that's really cool. But what's cooler is why this is happening and how does it impact us as investors. I think this is actually happening because of a huge transfer of Deloitte from the Ethereum blockchain onto the VeChain. Remember at the conference about a week and a half ago, Deloitte said that they were transferring all their business, like their entire certification process off of Ethereum and onto VeChain. And that's why I think the clauses have actually skyrocketed. Remember, a clause on VeChain is kind of like the same thing as a transaction on Bitcoin. And each one requires Vtho, and Vtho is highly, highly correlated with the number of clauses that are actually being inputted every day. So the number of clauses on VeChain has actually surpassed the number of transactions on Bitcoin for 1 day, and on these days, almost 90 million Vtho was burned. And how that's good for us investors is because the more Vtho that's required to be burned and used each day, the more VET will be worth because you have to generate Vtho with VET. You can also buy Vtho off LBank, but the supply of Vtho is going to be the ones that are generated from people who are staking. Obviously, if you burn Vtho, you're going to have to constantly generate new Vtho, and generating new Vtho comes from VeChain holders. So a giant need for Vtho obviously favors those who hold VET. And if Deloitte is onboarding all their stuff, I do expect to see a consistent increase in transactions and more important clauses that will require a lot more Vtho in the future and VET as a result. So keep a track of this. After Deloitte actually onboards this, the number of after Deloitte onboards this, or after the onboarding of this particular project, the demand might actually go down as they get more into their regular transactions. But if businesses really onboard like their certification process, or if Bright Foods, if this is Bright Foods onboarding their milk products, then we should see a consistently higher demand for Vtho because of the amount being burned, which in effect will affect the price of VET because you need VET to generate Vtho. So this is actually really good news for Vtho. There is tremendous growth the last few days because I think they are onboarding Deloitte, DNV, GL, or possibly Bright Foods. So, and we'll see like onboarding of BMW and their Carfax, BMW Singapore, and the replacement for Carfax in the future. So this is actually really huge for VeChain. We don't know we don't know for sure what's going on here, but what we do know is that there were a lot of their partners that are saying that they would actually onboard their businesses onto VeChain soon in the future, and could actually be one of them, which would result in significantly more Vtor being used each day. And this is probably only one partnership coming on. Once more of their partnerships coming on, and with the UNDP, with BMW Singapore, with Deloitte, with PricewaterhouseCoopers, you can see this going way up, and the requirement for more and more VeChain come up. So hold on to the VT, generate that VeChain, and I do think Vtor, and I think there will be a large use case for Vtor in the future. So that's the good news for VeChain. That is something that would directly affect our investment in the future, and that's why it could be worth a lot in the future. All right, that is the news for today. Check out my Twitter. It's in the description. Also like and subscribe. And if you like my content, please share it on social media. Thank you and have a nice day.